2020 and the beginning of 2021 will go down in history as being one of the strangest and most stressful years ever. How many of you all dealt with anxiety during the COVID-19 pandemic? I think we all were nervous about what was happening around us and what the upcoming weeks and months would hold. The combination of the fear of an unknown and deadly virus, stay-at-home orders, businesses closing down, economic crisis, and being isolated from one another has caused many to suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, otherwise known as GAD. The words new normal began to have a whole new meaning for all of us during this pandemic. As you can see from my slide, these are just some of the things that became our new normal, even though it never truly felt normal. From mask mandates to socially distancing to the controversial COVID-19 vaccine, everyone has had an opinion on how we should handle this pandemic. And tragically, many people have lost their lives, and many others have had their lives forever altered due to this horrific disease. Any number of the factors that we faced in the past year and a half could cause anxiety, much less when they all come together at the same time like a perfect storm. That is why, as a psychology major, I thought it would be interesting to do some research and find out what the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic had on people being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. First, I will begin by describing what GAD is, and then I will give you some statistics between the rise in generalized anxiety disorder and the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, GAD is defined as excessive anxiety and worry occurring more days than not for more than 6 months about a number of events or activities. A person with GAD, they find it difficult to control their anxiety, and they have at least 3 of 6 symptoms, including restlessness, being easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating, irritability, muscle tension, and sleep disturbance. GAD has both biological and environmental factors, and that means a person can be biologically susceptible to getting generalized anxiety disorder, but the environmental factors has more of a deciding factor on whether they will actually suffer from GAD or not. Many people actually go undiagnosed and untreated for GAD because they either think that it's part of their personality, their worry and their anxiety, or that they think that they can control it. According to doctors from the University of Michigan Medical School, medical treatment and psychotherapy both are very effective in the treatment for patients that are dealing with generalized anxiety disorder. I am sure as I described the symptoms of GAD, you probably could think of at least one person that has been diagnosed with it. Or you could think of at least one person that should be diagnosed with GAD, especially after the stress-ridden year that we all have had. With schools and churches having to close for weeks and months on end, and the social isolation that occurred during the pandemic, it has been extremely difficult for everyone, especially children and youth. A study published in the Cambridge University Press Public Health Emergency Collection, quote, suggests that the COVID-19 pandemic is having multifarious effects on the mental health of youth, including anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety disorder. According to an online study published in an article in Issues in Mental Health Nursing Journal, the results demonstrated a high prevalence rate, 17.9% for GAD during the initial COVID-19 outbreak, compared with the prior 1.8% 12-month estimate before the pandemic. This study also showed significantly higher levels of stress, loneliness, fatigue, and empathic concern, along with reductions in levels of quality of life. There were also significantly higher reports of pandemic-related concerns, poor changes in general health behaviors, and less confidence in the government's ability to handle the pandemic. Studies will be ongoing in the coming years to truly find the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the new normal that we have experienced, has had on the population. Only time will truly tell how vast of an effect on the mental health that this pandemic has had. In conclusion, I think there is a lot that can be researched and learned about in regards to mental health and a pandemic. My speech has only scratched the surface. I believe that God has created us to be social beings, so having to be socially isolated for weeks and months on end are not good for anyone, especially somebody that is already dealing with anxiety. Technology definitely proved to be invaluable during this time. People could actually stay connected to one another. And psychologists and counselors, they could counsel with their patients so that their patients could be treated instead of left untreated. But technology will never replace the connection of meeting with people one-on-one. If we can learn anything from this past year, it is to be kind and compassionate to one another, especially in challenging times like what we have faced. Because we truly never know what someone else might be facing. Thank you, and God bless.